Obviously, the OKC Thunder headed to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012. It does seem a bit surreal that they're back at this point because that was like the first time I remember watching NBA basketball. During that era where you had Russell Westbrook along with James Harden and Kevin Durant, and seeing them come back years and years later and get back up to this point where they are contenders, it's been really refreshing to see. And I said it on a video that I did actually a few days ago. They have pulled off this flawless rebuild in like the post Russell Westbrook years, right? It did not take them a very long time to get back to being a legitimate threat in the Western Conference. They trusted the process, they developed talent over the years, and they filled in the margins where they needed to, especially this past offseason where they got guys like Alex Caruso and also Isaiah Hartenstein, who provided some immediate value, and we just saw it in that series against the Timberwolves. So amazing run for OKC, specifically an amazing run for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We've been hearing people rave about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander really since his rookie year when he was with the Clippers. There was always this conversation around him where players around him that practiced with him or maybe played against him just knew there was something about him that was special. And seeing this all come to fruition for him has been awesome, right? You go from being a really good rookie, used in pretty large spurts as a role player in your rookie year, then just growing each and every season. And I feel like we knew this was going to come with Shai, not just because of what other people were saying about him, but the fact that he was working with a lot of veterans, right? And he shows off this idea that there is value in having veteran players around young players. It sounds really cliche to say, but there is a reason why young rebuilding teams want to invest in having a veteran player on the roster around the younger guys. You look at him his first year, he's around guys like Patrick Beverley. Then you look at him his second season, he's around guys like Chris Paul. And we see that value that he was able to get out of that. And again, he's able to reach this point where we look at him as the MVP. He is the MVP and arguably a top 5 player in the NBA. Now, when you have a season like he's had where he wins MVP and OKC is the best team in the NBA while being the youngest team in the league, that is going to come with a lot of hyperbole, right? I've seen a ton of statements online and on social media about SGA and what he was able to do this season. I'm not 100% in agreement with. One that I've heard in spurts is this idea that this is the greatest guard season in NBA history. Is it up there in the conversation? Absolutely, right? Like if we're going to say Allen Iverson's season in 2001 was one of the best guard seasons in NBA history, then you have to say the exact same thing about what SGA is doing this year. In 01, Iverson was the MVP and led the Philadelphia 76ers to the NBA Finals, very similar to what SGA is doing right now, being the MVP, having these ridiculous scoring numbers, and leading the OKC Thunder to the NBA Finals. There are a lot of similarities between Allen Iverson's 01 season and SGA's season this year. Now, there are some other things kind of taken into context when it comes to that, but a lot of similarities. But I'm not 100% on the train where we're saying automatically this is the greatest guard season of all time, because now I'm going to have to start bringing up some names, right? We could talk about Stephen Curry in 2016. Do people just forget about that? That was probably the best point guard year of all time. He was 50, 40, 90, put up 30 for the first time in his career. Golden State had the best record in the history of the NBA, something that we're not going to see broken in a long time, especially when we look at the league right now where things are super wide open and one team isn't able to dominate flat out the entirety of the season. That was 2016 Curry. Or we could talk about Jordan in 88, where he wins MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and the scoring title. How many other guards are we going to see put up that sort of resume in a regular season, right? From a two-way perspective where, for one, they're arguably the best offensive player in the game, and two, they're arguably the best perimeter defensive player in the game as well. Or we could talk about Russell Westbrook in 2017, in my opinion, one of the most disrespected MVP wins of all time. The man averaged a triple-double, right? And I don't care what you think about it. You can say he was stat padding or whatever the case may be. He broke a record that a lot of NBA fans and a lot of former NBA players thought was literally unbreakable. Did it for multiple seasons afterwards and carried OKC to the NBA playoffs. They had no business being as good as they were that year. Or Harden in 2019, where he literally averaged 36 points, 7.5 assists, and 6.6 rebounds per game. Bringing up another name all the way back to the 60s, and I referenced it a little bit here when I talked about Russell Westbrook, but Oscar Robertson, when he was able to average a 30-point triple-double in 1962. So many amazing years in there, and I appreciate what SGA has been able to do this year, and I do think historically this is one of the best all-time guard seasons ever, but I'm not ready to start putting it over some guys like Curry or Jordan in the late 80s. I'm not sure if it's on that particular level just yet. Is it significant? Absolutely. And one thing to factor in with it is the fact that he's doing all of this on the youngest team in the NBA, right? So there are a lot of things that prove this idea that this simply is one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a guard, but best all time, not there just yet. And I'd rather have this from NBA fans than like hyper criticism, right? I'd rather have fans making these super hyperbolic statements instead of hating on a player after his achievements. And we've gotten a fair share of that with SGA anyway, right? People are going to talk about the free throws and the style of play that he possesses, but I'd much rather have us be overly excited about a player's performance than overly critical for no reason at all, right? I think that's a better way to have conversations and discourse as NBA fans. Because Kevin Durant has said this a million times. NBA fans claim to be fans of the NBA, but they're not really. Why? Because they're constantly complaining about something. So I'm glad people are at least recognizing the greatness of SGA's season, and I'd rather them be very hyperbolic with what they're saying instead of being overly critical, which to me has plagued NBA discourse over like the last couple of seasons. Will he end up topping it off with the championship? We shall see. And I do think if he does win a title, that does thrust him above certain guys that are on this list. So I do think it'll thrust him over maybe Harden's 36-point per game season. I think there are going to be some conversations possibly about him being put over Jordan in 88, given that he was able to top it off with a championship in this season, if it's able to happen. So we'll see. But I'm excited to see how far OKC can take this thing. If they can be this super youthful team winning a championship, it'll be awesome. So no matter what way you look at it, SGA was able to etch himself in NBA history, NBA guard history with this season. But we'll see how everything turns out once the finals turn around and how the conversation will shift around that time.